And we are now live.
All right. I'd like to welcome all the counselors and members of the viewing public that are tuning in on YouTube to this very special meeting of a special city council where we'll be dealing with priorities and setting priorities for the balance of the term of this council. I think it'll be an interesting evening. So I'll call the meeting to order, and if you please rise as you can for the reading of the invocation. As we come together, we recognize the great responsibilities that are laid upon us. Our council will always strive to understand the needs of the people we serve and to use power wisely and well. Our purpose is to establish and maintain a city of prosperity and righteousness where freedom prevails and where justice rules. Let us also not forget those who've served our community who are no longer with us so that we can continue to do the work we must in their memory. Please be seated. And Madam Clerk, if you please call the roll.
Certainly. Councillor Vanderstelt.
Present.
Councillor Sless.
Present.
Councillor Utley.
Present.
Councillor Martin.
Here.
Councillor Mercuri.
Here.
Councillor Antosky.
Here.
Councillor Wall.
Present.
And Mayor Davis.
Here. Councillor Carpenter did advise me this evening that because of a family matter, he will not be attending. So I'd like to remind council members of the viewing public that this, as a virtual meeting, we do have some rules that apply to make sure the meeting runs as efficiently and smoothly as possible. All members are to be muted during the meeting to reduce feedback. All web cameras should remain turned on so that we don't lose quorum. Staff are requested to join the video meeting as and when required. Any member of council should indicate they wish to speak by pushing the raised hand button in the participants box. Your hand will be lowered by staff when you finish speaking. In the event that we lose the connection or there's an interruption that takes quorum away, we'll recess for 15 minutes. And if we can't reconnect and capture the quorum, then the meeting will be adjourned. All members participating via online video conference will vote using eScribe, and the clerk will announce the voting results. Members of the public who register as delegates are able to take part electronically via webcam or by telephone for the meetings. All rules for delegations, all the other rules continue to apply. So does anybody have a pecuniary interest they need to declare regarding any item that's on our agenda this evening? Seeing no hands raised. First item is a proclamation, World Polio Day. And want to remind members that we do have a new rule, 15.8.3E. No member shall be permitted to speak to recognition of achievements or proclamations. They're just simply read. So Councillor Utley, if you would please proceed to read the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm very pleased to do that. Proclamation World Polio Day, October 24, 2020. Whereas Rotary International is a global network of neighbors, friends, leaders, and problem solvers who unite and take action to create lasting change in communities across the globe. And whereas the Rotary motto, service before self, inspires members to provide humanitarian service, follow high ethical standards, and promote goodwill and peace in the world. And whereas Rotary in 1985 launched Polio Plus and spearheaded the Global Polio Eradication Initiative, which today includes the World Health Organization, US Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, UNICEF, and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation to immunize the children of the world against polio. And whereas polio cases have dropped by 99.9% since 1988, and the world stands on the threshold of eradicating the disease. And whereas to date, Rotary has contributed more than $2.2 billion and countless volunteer hours to the protection of more than 2.5 billion children in 122 countries. And whereas Rotary is currently working to raise an additional $50 million per year, which would be further leveraged for maximum impact by an additional $100 million annually from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. And whereas these efforts are providing much needed operational support, medical personnel, laboratory equipment, and educational materials for health workers and parents. And whereas, in addition, Rotary has played a major role in decisions by donor governments to contribute more than 10 billion to the efforts. And whereas there are over 1.2 million Rotary Club members in more than 35,000 clubs throughout the world that service projects to address such critical issues as poverty, health, hunger, illiteracy, and the environment in the local communities and abroad. Therefore, be it resolved that the Council of the Corporation of the City of Brantford hereby proclaims October 24, 2020 as World Polio Day in the City of Brantford. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right, and do you have a seconder for that?
Councillor Sless.
Councillor Sless. Councillor Sless, can you confirm that, please?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. All right, I'll now call the vote on the approval of the proclamation.
World Polio Day proclamation has carried on a recorded vote of 8-0. Those voting in favor, Councillors Vanderstel, Utley, Sless, McCurry, Martin, Antosky, Wall, Mayor Davis.
All right. So before we proceed to consider the report and receive the presentation, as you know, our procedural rules restrict the presentation to 10 minutes, and for the entire matter this evening, we'd each have 2 speaking opportunities for a total of 4 minutes. The presenter, Aaron has asked that should be allowed 15 minutes for the presentation today. So I'm going to recommend that we allow that, and that there'd be no limit on the amount of times you can speak, although you can't speak longer than 3 minutes, kind of similar to what we followed previously in looking at this matter. So I'm going to proceed on that basis unless anyone has any objection, and if so, we'll put it to a resolution.
Mayor, thank you. If I may speak.
Yes.
I think if we're going to deviate from the rules, it should be preceded by a waive the rules resolution rather than simply an agreement informal.
Fair enough. So would someone be kind enough to make such a resolution? So it's moved by Councillor Wall, second by Councillor Utley. Any discussion? Councillor McCurry? So you've got your mute.
Sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
We've established these rules and procedures after considerable work and debate amongst members of council. And I think we really need to be consistent in the way we apply our rules. And the rules should not be subject to change depending upon who's doing the presenting and who's in the chair. We've been called to task before for violating or not violating the rules that we adhere to. And I would suggest that that we probably should stick to what we've agreed to do throughout the course of the last term and this term. Also, this is an item which has been before us previously. Our two speaking rule that applies at City Council only applies when the item has not appeared before us. Council speaking opportunity is 5 minutes, whereas the speaking opportunity for COW is 4 minutes. So I would think it would be in our best interest simply to follow the rules that we have before us.
Fair enough. Have Councillor Antosky.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I like rules for consistency. However, sometimes there's situations where we may need to amend or deviate. This is an important topic. This is council priorities, and I know that many of us are coming at it from different perspectives. So I would be in favor of the extended time. I think that we need to make sure we're all on the same page when we move forward with this.
Right. Not seeing any further raised hands. Madam Clerk, would you please take the vote on that resolution?
sorry for clarification, Mr. Mayor, this is to extend the time?
Just for the presenter to 15 minutes, and that there'd be the 3-minute speaking maximum per speaking opportunity, but not limiting it to for the entire evening to just 2.
Thank you for the clarification.
So the item for the waiving the rules, my apologies, the system actually didn't allow me to change it to a 2/3 majority requirement. So it actually has failed on a recorded vote of 5-3. Those voting in favor, Councillor Utley, Sless, and Toski, Wall, Mayor Davis. Those opposed, Councillor Vandersteldt, Councillor McCurry, Councillor Martin.
All right, so to be clear then, the presenter has to limit it to 10 minutes inclusive of questions, and we each will have 1 speaking opportunity for 5 minutes. Of course, if there are amendments, which I expect there will be some, there would then be, Madam Clerk, would there be 2 4 minutes for each amendment or just 1 5?
They stay the same, so 5.
Yeah, just the 1 5. Okay, so those are the ground rules. And I'd ask Councillor Wall if you could please read the resolution, state your seconder so we can get this on the floor.
Great, moved by myself, seeking a seconder.
Councillor
Councillor
Sless is
Sless.
seconding. Yeah.
Oh, thank you, Mayor Davis. 6.1, 2021-2022 Council Priority Setting, Financial Impact None, 2020-462. A, that staff report 2020-462, 2021 to 2022 Council Priority Setting be received, and that the 2021-2022 Council Priorities as outlined in Appendix A be endorsed, and C, that staff be directed to report back to Council in December 2020 with a plan to implement the 2021-2022 Council Priorities, including a summary of the required resources to be considered within the 2021 estimate process.
Thank you, Councillor Wall. Mr. Hutchings, if you would please introduce the presenter for today.
Thank you, Your Worship. I have a great honor to introduce Aaron Ohosky, the founder and principal consultant with Boulevard Strategy Group. Aaron has 2 decades of experience supporting local governments and associations in both strategy, management consulting, communications for municipalities. She worked with a number of boards and councils and completed many strategic plans with various communities such as Grimsby and Thorold, as well as Strathroy and Norfolk. She has extensive experience in community engagement and local development communities and has been published in the Municipal World's 12 Strategies for Re-Energizing Your Community. She understands membership-driven organizations. She worked for FCM and worked with facilitating and advocating for needs of rural and northern communities. She holds a Master's of Public Administration from the University of Western Ontario and was past president of the Local Government Association at the University of Western Ontario. Please welcome Aaron Ohosky.
Good evening, Aaron. So you have 10 minutes starting now.
Thank you, Mayor Davis. I'm just, if you'll give me a moment just to pull up the presentation here. Before I begin, can everyone see that okay? Wonderful. Okay, through you, Mayor Davis, it's my absolute pleasure to be back here with Brantford City Council. The City Council is showing tremendous leadership by checking in on your priorities at midway through your term. I know there's been a lot of progress on what you've accomplished so far this term, as well as considering your priorities and aligning that with the emerging challenges and opportunities with COVID-19. Thank you, Council, for your leadership, and I'm pleased to be here tonight presenting the results of this initiative so far. So in terms of the objectives for this evening, really threefold. First of all, to refresh members of council on the process to date, you would have received the follow-up report from the September 19th session that was in Appendix 1 to the staff report this evening. So first off, I want to present the results very quickly. I know you have it before you. of the results to date. Once I do that, really it's time to forget the process to date and take a step back, and for members of council to take a look at what's there so far and see if that makes sense to you. If not, staff are on hand to answer questions on any of the initiatives that you might have questions on. I know they worked hard to prepare some responses from the September 19th meeting, and those were before you, I think, last week. And then councillors may move to change how certain initiatives fall within the tiered ranking system if they don't seem to be where you hope they would end up. Then, of course, looking for your approval, providing that final direction to staff on the initiatives that are most important to you as a collective, as a council, for the balance of this term. Again, we mentioned this on September 19th. Our target here is a 70% level of comfort among members of council. This process doesn't really allow time to get into semantics. It really isn't feasible for all members of council to be 100% comfortable. So our target here this evening is a 70% or greater level of comfort. In terms of the process to date, we started the process on September the 8th, and in that time, we've done research of your foundational documents and your census data, individual interviews with each of you, as well as your executive leadership team. We had that council workshop back on September 19th in an open meeting format, and then provided a follow-up information report, which is before you this evening. In terms of the desired outcomes throughout this process and speaking with each and every one of you, essentially it came down to council's 9, your desired outcomes for the balance of the term and beyond, that neighborhoods are safe, vibrant, and attractive, that meaningful supports are in place for those who need it most. There's a safe, efficient transportation system. There's high trust in the city through high value for money in tax dollars. Growth is successfully accommodated. There's a stronger, more diversified tax base through economic development efforts. The city's mitigating its environmental footprint, adapting to climate change, that the full potential and community benefits of the Grand River are realized, and that dedicated sustainable spaces are provided for heritage, arts, and culture. And those are in order loosely to your feedback on September 19th. In terms of the decision-making criteria that got us to tonight, first of all, it's do these initiatives advance those 9 outcomes that you're hoping to achieve? Does the initiative minimize the need for municipal resources? I know you've provided stringent guidance to your staff for budget development over next year and beyond. Is the project visible to the community? So time is a very big consideration here. Many of you told me that you don't want to spend the rest of your term exclusively looking at studies and plans. You want to make sure that what you are doing, there's a good balance of projects that are visible to the community. So can you reasonably achieve success and things that are visible within the next 24 months? Is the initiative consistent with municipal responsibilities? Will it leverage lessons learned from COVID-19? And council, I think it was through Councillor Wall on the 19th, also wanted to note, is it consistent with council's commitment to leadership environmental sustainability? In the group exercise on September 19th, you color-coded in your small groups between green, yellow, and red. Red doesn't mean that it's not important, just maybe less urgent than the others. It might be very important, and it's just something that might not be visible for this term of council or a decision of a future term. The way the color coding worked was into a tiered system. So I'll explain the tiers briefly to you. So tier 1, all 3 groups indicated a green color code. So without exception, if you see an initiative in tier 1, all 3 groups categorize that as green. And that receives the highest level of priority. In tier 2, group responses either leaned towards green, they weren't completely green, they either leaned towards green or they averaged yellow, and that has the second highest priority ranking. In tier 3, group responses lean towards red, and that receives the tier 3 category. If I can explain, I know tier 1, in speaking with your CAO, and he may want to elaborate on this further, is really must-dos in the next 24 months. Tier 2s are working hard on those initiatives, on advancing them as resources and time permit. And tier 3s are things that staff will absolutely try and get to, or perhaps in council's mind, are things that might not be finished or achieve a reasonable level of progress this term, but things that you want symbolically to indicate are very important to this council. So again, tier 3 does not mean it's unimportant. Everything on this list you told me is important. That's just the way we've classified it in order to provide guidance to your staff. The discussion questions for this evening are, first off, do you require further information on an initiative? And if you do, staff are on hand to provide that if you didn't get that in the supplementary information provided. And then second, is there an initiative within each of those 9 outcomes that you feel is in the wrong tier? And if it is, through tonight's process, you'll have an opportunity to move that be changed to a different tier. I know we'll be going through this and speaking with your mayor and clerk by outcome. So we'll focus on each outcome area individually. I will do my best to present all of these to you. I know I want to be respectful of council's procedural bylaw, and I'll get through as much as I can within the 10-minute time limit. But if we do run out of time, I will just let council know all of this is in the appendix to the staff report this evening. So if we don't get through it all in the allotted time for the presentation, it's there before you and available to the public as well. So in terms of the outcomes, the first outcome was outcome number 1. And this is that neighborhoods throughout the city are safe, vibrant, and attractive. And there are a number of initiatives within this particular outcome. Tier 1 was complete a new official plan. In tier 2, a number of initiatives here, the bylaw enforcement to increase capacity on bylaw enforcement, mandating the city to lead by example in property standards, continuing to invest in downtown revitalization, developing a multi-year asset management plan, working with Brantford Police strategy on 2 things. First is on a long-term prevention-based approach, but also working with Brantford Police Service and other community partners on the immediate needs associated with crime in the community. Developing a youth strategy, addressing deficiencies in Woodman Pool, and completing a new community center in partnership with the school board. No initiatives in tier 3 on this particular outcome. For outcome number 2, meaningful supports are in place for those most in need in the community. And under tier 1, you had working with your healthcare partners on the Brantford Brant Community Drug Strategy, and then continuing implementation of the Elder Abuse Prevention Strategy and other age-friendly initiatives. Tier 2 was commence 1 or more additional housing developments before the end of the term, and no initiatives in tier 3 for this particular outcome. Outcome 3, a safe, efficient transportation system connects the community across neighborhoods with neighboring communities and provincial transportation networks. Under tier 1, it was implementing traffic calming measures where they're most in need. Under tier 2, we have that 403 transportation access, the joint city-county strategic transportation study, citywide traffic technologies, and developing a comprehensive plan for improved connectivity and enhanced maintenance. And then under tier 3, we have a long-term plan for public transit growth.
Aaron, there's 25 more seconds.
Okay, well, thank you, Mayor Davis. I'll end it there. All the outcomes are before you this evening. We got through a few there, but I'll just bring it back to the discussion questions. Do you require further information on any of the initiatives? And would you like to change the ranking of any particular initiative? With that, in closing, I would just like to thank you for this opportunity. It's been an honor to work with you during this process, and I look forward to assisting in any way I can this evening.
Thank you very much, Aaron. No time for questions. So I think we have to bear in mind that, so we have 1 speaking opportunity of 5 minutes to the entire plan. We have 5 minutes speaking opportunity to any amendments. So here's what I'm going to suggest so that this moves forward in a semi-coherent manner. That to talk about the priority planning in its entirety, I suggest we hold that until we've got all the amendments and dealt with them. It's a little bit different than what I normally would do. And I'd suggest that if we're going to look at amendments, there's probably 2 types of amendments. One would be if you look at the 9 outcomes, someone might, and this does list them sort of in order of priority, not sort of, it does. So 1, neighborhoods is the most important. And not mean the one that's ninth is the least important, but that's the ranking. So someone might amend to move, say, 9 to 4 or 9 to 3. That would be, I think, a legitimate amendment. Or maybe that you want a 10 on this, which almost would require us to, I think, have a deferral to another Saturday event. And then once we've dealt with 1 to 9 and no further amendments on 1 to 9, I'd suggest I'll then go to each of the numbers and then call for amendments to some of the more detailed priorities. Someone might want to move a tier 3 to tier 2, a tier 2 to tier 1. You might want to add something else. So I think, to my mind, that would be an organized, coherent way of dealing with it, and still allow everybody an opportunity to have their say, make any amendments, and try and do it in an organized fashion, so it's not total chaos. So I don't hear anybody objecting to that. So I'm going to suggest that we look at, and again, don't blow your 5-minute speaking opportunity, only if you want an amendment. Well, you could always use your 5-minute speaking opportunity right now if you want. But so 1 to 9, does anybody want to make an amendment to add a 10 or move any of the numbered items higher up or lower? So I'm checking yes, Councillor Antosky.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Yes, I would like to move number 7 up to, and I was just trying to open it, I think 2 or 3, because it encompasses all of these things. And we already have a commitment to a climate action plan. We have a commitment to climate emergency, and we have legislative things that we have to follow through in terms of organics. And I think that needs to be moved up. I also, on number 3, I think was the transportation one, outcome 3, sorry. I think that the third tier, develop a long-term plan for public transit growth, should move to a tier 1, because I'm not really sure how you.
Okay, well, we'll deal with that next. Okay.
All right. Yep.
So we're just dealing with 1 through 9. So your amendment is we move 7, which is mitigating environmental footprint. We move that up to 3, and then what's 3 would then become 4, and so on to the end. Is that what you're looking at? Yeah. Okay. I think I understand that. So do we have a seconder for that amendment? You can just raise your hand physically if you're a seconder. Okay. Not seeing a seconder on that, Councillor Antosky. Anybody else want to propose any amendments for 1 through to 9? And I believe Councillor McCreary, did you want to propose an amendment?
Mayor, I'd like to change the wording of item number 2, which presently reads, meaningful supports are in place for those most in need in the community. Ironically, the word meaningful is meaningless in this, as it's not defined. And this doesn't recognize the fact that we should be providing supports to the folks who live and work and play in this community, not to folks that end up coming here because the grass is greener on our side. So I would like to change that wording, Mayor, to read as follows. Social service support is provided to Brantford residents in need. Social service support is provided to Brantford residents in need.
I'm just writing that down myself. We have a seconder for that amendment. I see Councillor Martin. If you could just confirm that, Councillor Martin.
Yes, I'll second that.
Okay. So to the amendment. Does anybody wish to speak to the amendment? To push that raised hand button. Not seeing any raised hands. Madam Clerk, we're going to be able to keep up with this tonight. There's going to be a bit of this. Getting the thumbs up. Okay. There it is. It's up above. Madam Clerk, please take the vote on this.
The amendment has carried on a recorded vote of 8-0. Those voting in favor, Councillors Vanderstel, Utley, Sless, McCreary, Martin, Antosky, Wall, Mayor Davis.
Okay. Anybody else have any amendments to the 1 to 9 headings, either wording or order? Councillor Vanderstel.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Considering the circumstances and the changes that I've seen in priorities over the last year, what I would like to do is recommend in a point of your choosing or an additional point, if you wish, that we reconvene for another priority session in a year from now in order to redetermine our direction or bring further clarity to our direction as a result of or a reduction in COVID.
So you want to add a D then to the resolution, because the resolution is, there's A, receive, B, endorse, C, be directed to report back to council with a plan to implement in December 2020 with 2021 else. So you want a D then to that, right?
A D to reconvene in a year and go through the same process to make sure that we're on point for our priorities for the following year.
Okay, I think, is there a seconder for that? Councillor McCreary has raised his hand. Councillor McCreary, if you confirm you're seconding in that.
I do.
All right. Madam Clerk, do you have? She's typing it out. Does anybody want to speak to that amendment? As the clerk is typing it.
I do, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, so push the raised hand button, please. Are you pushing there? Okay, you're there now. You can speak.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's not entirely as a result of the effects of COVID that our priorities seem to have shifted slightly over the last year. I'm just conscious of the fact that this is a perpetual moving target. I think council priorities is an evergreen subject. It's something that we're going to have to revisit and be flexible to adjust to the changing needs of our populations that we serve and the assistance that we can get from other levels of government in to do so. So what I'm hoping for is that despite the fact that there are 3 members of council unable to attend tonight, I just want to be assured that they are involved in this process as well. I know that these are the findings of what we went through recently, but I certainly would hope that going forward, we can keep a very close tab on how our priorities will shift, and they will, no doubt, they will shift over the course of a year. And I look forward to a support for this, unanimous support. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right. Councillor Utley, to the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I support this. I think it makes a lot of sense to see where we are in a year. The way things are going with the COVID, anything can happen. So best that we try and finish this term on a high and keep track of what's going well and perhaps maybe it isn't going as well as we expected. So fully support. Thank you.
Okay. Seeing no other speakers, Madam Clerk, please take the vote on this amendment.
The amendment to conduct a priority session review in 1 year time has carried on a recorded vote of 8-0. Those voting in favor, Councillors Vanderstel, Utley, Sless, McCreary, Martin, Antosky, Wall, Mayor Davis.
Okay, so still with the 9 different outcomes or headings, are there any further amendments anyone wishes to make before we go to each one of them? Seeing none. So let's go to outcome 1. Outcome 1 is the neighborhoods and established areas of the city are safe, vibrant, attractive, inclusive. There's a number of tier 1 and tier 2 and tier 3 priorities. I see Councillor Sless. Would you like to move an amendment?
No, I'd like some clarification on it if I could. I'm not sure what the word established means.
Okay, you're going to have to be careful. You've only got 1 speaking opportunity. That's why I asked. That's why I suggested the rule change. But so you've got one speaking, and that includes questions, right? So you've got one speaking opportunity for the entire priority report. And if you start asking questions now, you've burned up your 5-minute speaking opportunity, if I'm going to be consistent with the rules.
I'll hang on to my turn then. Sorry.
Yeah. So it's really, it's amendments that will get you speaking opportunities. Let's say that. I'm making that ruling on the fly here. So we've got this tier 1 and tier 2 and tier 3 under this outcome 1. So Councillor Wall, do you have an amendment in mind for desired outcome number 1?
Yes, Mayor Davis, through you, I'd like to move tier 2 priority B into tier 1 priority.
So tier 2B is mandate the city lead by example and property standards? Or is that continue to invest in downtown revitalization?
Nope, sorry. We're talking about tier 2,
Yep.
item B, move to tier 1.
Okay, so that's mandate the city to lead by example and property standards.
Nope, that's C.
So
We're looking at the same thing. Tier 2 priorities, B,
we're not.
is improve municipal capacity for bylaw enforcement, including extended hours to address concerns related to property standards, noise, nuisance, and compliance with COVID-19 regulations.
Sorry, you're right.
That's okay. So then, can I motivate it?
Well, you have to get a seconder on that. So
Councillor McCurry.
Councillor McCurry is seconding it. Councillor McCurry, could you confirm that verbally?
Yes. That doesn't count as a speaking opportunity, right?
It does not. Okay, so anybody wish to speak to that?
Yes.
Councillor Wall, go ahead.
I mean, I've spoken to this numerous times at council as well. I just think that we need to help out our guys and team, and you know, we need more bylaw enforcement for the many concerns, especially now with COVID-19. And I just think that the municipality could be doing more to provide support to our citizens and also support to the police when it comes to enforcing all the bylaws that this municipality has. So I think it should be a top tier priority.
I agree. Anybody else want to speak to it? Councillor Vanderstel.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and members who are present. I guess the secret is out of the bag. We did relocate. I do now live in Ward 5. Ward 5 has a unique population, but some unique experiences as well. It was impressed upon me by the group that meets on a regular basis close to our residents that there are serious concerns about the health and safety and the public wellness of everybody in the area where some of the worst bit of the behaviors and activities are occurring. I have great concerns about the sense of safety that people experience. And the actual lived experience of safety. It seems to have been escalated over the last year, if not 2 years, for a number of different reasons, COVID being one reason why. This is another example, and I thank Councillor Wall for bringing this forward. This is another example of the things that we need to do to be flexible in order to make sure that we serve all of our populations. So putting a better and a stronger emphasis on making sure we work creatively and effectively with our police service and a number of other service agencies to bring that about. I'm in full support of this change, and I hope to see it right across the city. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right. Councillor McCurry.
Mayor, I have an amendment to this amendment.
Okay, what do you've got? What do you have?
It's item B again, which reads improve municipal capacity, etc. I would also like to include, after including extended hours, comma, expanded scope, comma, which would allow the municipality to take on enforcement duties that are now looked after by BPS.
Okay. Do you have a seconder for that?
That's friendly.
It's friendly. It's friendly. Did you want to speak to the amendment as amended by friendly amendment? I assume not.
Sorry, Mayor, are you talking to me?
You or me?
I'm talking to you, Councillor McCreary.
Sure, I will, since it's not wasting a speaking opportunity, and then we have another one on the amendment. Learned that from Councillor Starkey years ago. So this is something that some of us have talked about for quite a while, is allowing the municipal forces to take on some of the duties that are now performed by, or perhaps not performed by, Brantford Police Services. And it's of course going to require a bit of a study period, which I think is already underway, to see exactly what things we could take on and do perhaps more efficiently, and freeing up time for the police to do the things that they should be doing.
All right. Yeah, and so I'll speak to this as well. I agree entirely that we need to move this to Tier 1. There are issues, in particular in respect to Ward 5, inclusive of the downtown, that I believe require this city very quickly to undertake and look at certain security measures to enhance the safety and security of both Eagle Place, the downtown, other parts of Ward 5. And it requires us to act in a really innovative manner, and doing it in association with and cooperation with our Brantford Police Services. Currently, I am doing that with senior city staff. There will be announcements to come, resolutions and proposals for council to consider. And certainly moving this particular B into Tier 1 would insist and enhance that process. So I fully support it. Anyone else wish to speak to it? All right, Madam Clerk, recall the vote on that, please.
The amendment has carried on a recorded vote of 8-0. Those voting in favor, Councillors Vanderstout, Utley, Sless, McCreary, Martin, and Toski. Wall, Mayor Davis.
Any other proposed amendments, excuse me, to outcome number 1? Seeing none, we'll move to outcome number 2. And outcome number,
Mr. Mayor, it didn't work. I've been trying to put my hand up. Sorry, I do have an amendment for number.
okay. Yeah, there must be something wrong with your raised hand button. So
My apologies.
We'll let you do it manually. What is your amendment, Councillor Toski?
Thank you. I'd like to try changing the wording of the outcome that all neighborhoods in the city are safe, vibrant, attractive, and inclusive. Speaking to it, I think, certainly we want our established neighborhoods to be that way as well. But if we are developing a framework or a strategy to create those types of neighborhoods, it should be for all neighborhoods and newly created ones as well.
Aren't newly created ones established?
Well, I guess that's maybe part of the question on what the intent was in established. Part of my understanding of it was older established, neighborhoods that may be failing right now.
To give it greater clarity, I understand. So so specifically your amendment is to the outcome to change it to neighborhoods in all areas of the city, is that?
Sure, or all neighborhoods of the city are safe, vibrant, attractive, and inclusive.
Okay. Is there a seconder for that?
I'll second that.
Councillor Wells seconded that. Any discussion in respect to that amendment? Councillor Sluss?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I'll get to speak then to the established neighborhoods, because that was concerning me as well. I'm pleased that there's clarification on that, and I quite agree with the mover that we can't discriminate against any part of the city. The city as a whole, and we can't do things because of certain areas. We all have issues within our wards that I think this outcome will assist in. So I'm pleased to support this, and I'm glad it was brought forward.
Seeing no other speakers to the amendment, Madam Clerk, take the vote, please.
The amendment has carried on a recorded vote of 8-0. Those voting in favor, Councilors Vanderstel, Utley, Sless, McCurry, Martin, Antosky, Wall, Mayor Davis.
Okay. Are there any other amendments anyone wishes to make to outcome 1? Seeing no raised hands or anybody speaking out, we'll move to outcome 2. So outcome 2 was that previously was changed based on the amendment put forward by Councillor McCreary. But we have the different tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 priorities. Councillor McCreary, would you like to make an amendment on one of those?
Mayor, yes. I'm going to move that item C be moved into the first tier. It seems like, weekly we're having discussions about affordable housing. And I think leaving this as a second tier does a disrespect to what we've clearly established as a citywide priority. And in fact, one of our top priorities, and yet here it is somehow dumped into the second bucket. So I think that makes sense for us to do that. It's imperative that we get at least one of these underway, and hopefully we can get a second one underway before this term of council.
Okay, so that's seconded by Councillor Vanderstel, I believe. Just confirm that, please, Councillor Vanderstel.
I confirm that, Mr. Mayor.
All right, thank you. So that's on the floor. Councillor Wall. Speaking
Sorry,
to the matter.
maybe I'm seeking an amendment. Perhaps it'll be friendly, but I'd like to see that go from C to A.
I see Councillor McCreary shaking his head. Is that a?
Yes, that is in the affirmative, Mayor.
I thought it was. So we'll now have the wording will be C will be A will be B, B will be C, and A, B, and C will be in tier 1. I think that's the amendment that's on the table. Anyone else wish to speak to this? Not seeing any raised hands. Madam Clerk, please take. I think you captured it in your B tier 1 and B title item A. Yep, that's it. So
The amendment has carried on a recorded vote of 8-0. Those voting in favor, Councilors Vanderstel, Utley, Sless, McCurry, Martin, Antosky, Wall, Mayor Davis.
So Councillor Wall, I see you've got a raised hand. Is that, no, I didn't think so. Okay. Councillor McCreary, do you have any amendments to outcome number 2?
I have, Mayor, yes, and thank you. I'm going to suggest that as we've discussed here, there's only so much stuff that we can do. And I think this housing project before us should really be the definitive item in this desired outcome, this number 2. If you look at what used to be A and B, but now are B and C, these are initiatives that are already underway, that are already funded, and require no real greater degree of attention by the municipality other than to simply make sure that these continue to happen. So I would suggest, Mayor, that we move the former A and B into tier 2, leaving only the housing issue in number 1, okay?
So your resolution would be that what is now B and C would be moved from tier 1 to tier 2.
That's correct.
All right. And I see Councillor Sless raising his hand, nodding his head, indicating he's a seconder. And Councillor Antosky, did you wish to speak to that amendment?
Thank you. I like this idea. I questioned the same thing. These were 2 things that were already being done. I just want to be clear that that doesn't signal to staff in any way, shape, or form that less attention goes to those at this point.
All right, can we have Mr. Hutchings? Can you give us some clarity on that, please?
Yes, that is accurate, Mr. Mayor, Your Worship. Is obviously the priority ones, top tier ones will be, we're going to make sure they get done in the next 2 years. Tier twos, we're going to get majority of them done and work on them. And tier threes will be in progress. Hopefully we'll get some of them done, but we'll get a gold star if we do, but they'll also be in progress for the next council. So yes, to Councilor's Toski's question, that will still be a priority. We're going to try to get ones and twos done, and with threes, work on the threes.
Thank you for the confirmation.
All right. Seeing no other speakers, Madam Clerk, if you please call the vote on this resolution moving B and C to tier 2.
The amendment has carried on a recorded vote of 8-0. Those voting in favor, Councilors Vanderstel, Utley, Sless, McCreary, Martin, and Toski, Wall, Mayor Davis.
Any other proposed amendments to outcome number 2? Seeing none, we'll move to outcome number 3. Before we do that, I wanted to say something to the staff that are present here, Emma and Tanya. I really do appreciate tonight is requiring you to work. We're pushing the envelope for you in terms of your skills. So thank you very much. So a lot more to come, I'm sure. So outcome number 3, any amendments proposed for outcome number 3? Councillor Toski.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think it makes sense to move the tier, F, develop a long-term plan for public transit growth, to tier 1, because I struggle to understand how we can do the rest of those items without having that. So I would like to amend that to go to tier 1, please.
Okay. So you're suggesting F will be moved into tier 1. I guess it would become B then.
I would like to make it A, please.
Okay. So F would become A, which would put it in tier 1. That would leave traffic calming measures as B, but still within tier 1. Is that your intent? Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
So is there a seconder for that? Seeing no seconder. Any other proposed amendments to outcome?
Chair Davis.
Yes.
Sorry, can I seek clarification on that? Because
Sure.
Is public transit referring to busing, or is that referring to? Is it public transit like that? When I read public transit, I think like busing. That's what that means.
That's a fair request for clarification, which actually I think Councillor Sless, probably I should allow that other question based on clarification. Anyway, so to staff who can answer that for us, what does public transit growth, what's the reference to?
Indiana General Manager, Public Works, through the chair, that is our busing system. Typically, we do call that public transit in the industry.
Okay. So do we have a seconder then for Councillor Toski's amendment? And you just physically raise your hand if you're doing that. Don't see any. So any other amendments proposed for outcome number 3? Councillor Utley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've got an amendment for D, tier 2D. Investigate citywide traffic technologies to enhance traffic safety, including mobile radar units. Seeking a seconder.
So you're including.
Thank you.
So it's to add the words including mobile radar
units.
And are you suggesting that go into tier 1, or are you leaving it in tier 2?
I think we'd all like to know the cost of that first before we move it up. I think it is deserving of a tier 1, but it may not be affordable in this term. I think that's the key thing here. Can we do it in this term? I think part of it may be just identifying the technology and the cost. So I think tier 2 is appropriate at this time.
Okay, so your amendment is adding those words.
Yes,
And
please.
Councillor Vanderstel, you seconded that.
Yeah.
Any discussion on that, Councillor McCreary?
Mayor, my hand was up simply to make a point of order that even a single question is a speaking opportunity. Questions are not defined in the rules and procedures. So had Councillor Sless asked his question, he would have lost his speaking opportunity. And Councillor Wall was fortunate it's on the amendment.
Nobody also asked for a point of clarification. Anyways, did you want to speak to this amendment?
No, Mayor, that's all I had to say.
All right. Not Councillor Utley, did you want to? You've already spoken to this. It was your amendment.
I do have another amendment, but to something else.
Okay. Okay, this is getting confusing between raised hands and raised hands. So I'll tell you what I'm going to do. So if you want to make an amendment, just physically raise your hand.
Okay.
If you want to speak to something, push the raise hand button. How's that? That'll make it easier for me. So we have the amendment on the floor to add those words. Councillor Vanderstel, did you want to speak to that amendment?
I would like to. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And you are doing a fabulous job tonight. Thank you. I don't. It's very frustrating to watch the type of behaviors that we've seen increase in the last year in a number of different areas in the city with regard to reckless driving, reckless endangerment, speeding. I'm of half of mind to amend this amendment to move it up into tier 1. But I won't do it based on the idea that we may not be able to accomplish or achieve this end goal in the time that we have left on this term of council. But I wanted to honor the the amount of calls and the sheer volume of complaints that we have with regard to public health and safety in this area. So the faster we move on this, the better. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Councillor Sless to the amendment.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. When we're calling it mobile radar units, is that something operated by the police services, or is this something that staff can do? And if it is something that staff are intending to do, can we legally do that? I'm not sure who could answer that.
Is there someone from staff that can answer that?
The chair, yeah, so this is my understanding. This is the automated speed cameras that Councillor Utley has amended. So typically we do enter into an agreements with Toronto and the ministry to put these in place. You can move them, but there's a lot of reporting that goes along with it. Typically what we see is about $30,000 for a mobile unit. And we are able to move them based on our need as well as our what we see in the community and what we see in that location where we initially put it. Is it improving that location, and then we're shifting it over to another location? So that is in our right as part of those agreements that we enter into.
So this is not comparable then to photo radar.
So this is through Mr. Mayor, this is my understanding. Now, Councillor Utley can correct me if I'm wrong. These are the automated speed cameras, so they do take this license plate as and the speed, and they issue a ticket from there. The red light cameras, that has a photo as well, so they are all photo radar, indicating, and for different needs. One is once you're into the intersection during a red light. The other is speeding. You're at speeding in the zone that's set on the mobile unit.
Okay, well, correct me if I'm wrong. It seems to me that a few years ago we looked into this, and maybe the rules have changed, but I thought that the cost of doing this was prohibitive because you had to buy, or you had to lease, or however they bring the cameras in. You had to do them in such numbers that a community of our size simply couldn't afford or support that many cameras and afford to pay the bill for it. So has something changed where we can buy one, or lease, or however it's done, 1, 2, or 3, or 10 cameras?
Through Mr. Mayor, My understanding from just the background of what Brantford has gone through, that is the case, but we are looking at agreements with the ministry to see if there are changes. We're also through the Vision Zero committee, we are looking at how red light cameras can be implemented and the feasibility of that. So this outcome where it's investigated, I think is appropriate to bring something back to council with any updates from the agreements that have been in place and changed.
No, I'm heartened by that. It's just, it was cost prohibitive when it was first looked at. Maybe, and I hope there is a way that we can do it with within our own means and move forward with the project. But it was my understanding that a city of our size just simply couldn't pay the bill on doing something like this.
All right, seeing no other raised hands, Madam Clerk, please take the vote on this amendment. No, it's still tier 2. Okay.
The amendment carried on a recorded vote of 8-0. Those voting in favor, Councilors Vanderstel, Utley, Sless, McCreary, Martin, Antosky, Wall, and Mayor Davis.
Okay, any further amendments? Councilor Utley, you've got your hand up.
Thank you, Mayor Davis. I'd like to add an F. I don't under tier 2, and that is to service our business community starting in the Northwest Business Park that coincides with shift changes. I didn't see that in any of the, that could come onto 3 possibly, but let's try it in tier 2.
Can you repeat that for the clerk?
Sure. I'll try and shorten it up a little bit. That transit service be provided to businesses that coincide with shift changes.
Councilor Sless, are you seconding that? All right.
Yes.
We've got a few speakers on this. So I'll start with, first of all, Councilor, did you want to speak to your amendment?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Businesses in the Northwest Business Park have complained for years that many of their employers are unable to get to work or late arriving because our transit system doesn't coincide with their shift times. So some have to walk to work, to and from work, in, you know, the best and the worst of weather systems. And, you know, it doesn't make it attractive for employers when they can't get their employees to and from work. So somehow we need to address that if we say we're a business-friendly community. Thank you.
Okay, I've got 4 speakers so far. Councilor Martin.
Thank you. Through you to staff, we already run buses out there every half hour, do we not?
To the chair, yeah, we do. And we have staggered some of the buses due to COVID and the staggered shifts that the industry is doing as well.
Okay, so we can't be running buses out there every 10 minutes so that every shift can be accommodated. The businesses out there need to coordinate their shifts so that they're changing their shifts at the same time instead of at all different times so that transit can be effective. So I don't see this as a need to make any changes at this point.
Yeah. Councilor Wall, to the amendment.
Thank you, Mayor Davis. I was just thinking, I don't know, perhaps like just as a friendly amendment, because I see what Councilor Utley's trying to do here. I was just thinking that perhaps wording could be added to the already existing Tier 3 priority F, develop a long-term plan with public transit growth, including working with local businesses, something. I was just thinking they could be merged together instead of it being a separate item. Just add something to do with, take some of the wording from his and add it to F. That's what I'm trying to say.
What do you say, Councilor Utley? You've got a friendly suggestion there for you.
I can live with that.
Okay. So what it is you're adding then to the tier 3, which is F, which is develop a long-term plan for public transit growth, adding the words to include.
Working together with the businesses in the southwest sector to provide better accommodation to staff, something.
I think it was the northwest we're talking about, not the southwest.
Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
It's a long night, Mayor Davis.
And it's going to be longer still. So I think Councillor Ellie, you're saying that that's how you want to change your.
That's okay with me. If it's okay with the seconder.
Councillor Celeste, is that okay with you?
Yes, that's fine. Thank you.
Yeah. And so this would leave it as a tier 3, F, correct? That's Councillor, you just need to shake your head. Either
Yes.
agree with me? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, Madam Clerk, can you show us the wording on that? And Councillor Vanderstel, you can speak to it as you've raised your hand.
Would you like me to speak now, Mr. Mayor, or after?
Speak now. Speak now. You're the only speaker.
Now or forever hold my peace. I will. As an additional item, I was not prepared to support this based on the 30-minute round cycle for busing to the northwest. However, after it's been abbreviated, changed, and put into tier 3, I can support it. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. I think we have to show a great deal of patience and understanding for our clerk.
And for the chair as well.
Here we go. So the amended to include, including transit. Okay. So call the vote on that.
The amendment has carried on a recorded vote of 7-1. Those voting in favor, Councillor Vanderstel, Utley, Celeste, McCurry, and Toski, Wall, Mayor Davis. Those opposed, Councillor Martin.
Okay, does anybody have any other amendments to outcome number 3? Raise your hands. Councillor McCurry.
Mayor, thank you. I'm going to move that item C, Joint City-County Strategic Transportation Study, be moved to tier 3 and be relettered accordingly.
That's an excellent wording on that. Precise. That's seconded by Councillor Wall.
And if I may speak to that, I'd simply like to ask staff a question as to whether or not A, this is underway, and B, what our schedule and the counties and the costs would be for this.
Indy may want to, through Mr. Mayor, through the Councillor McCreary, Indy may want to speak to this. I'm not aware of this being underway at this point in time. Indy, are you?
Through the chair. So we have consultant on, or the consultant is on board reviewing the TMPs. However, the county has just started their TMP. We're close to finishing. So there is a consultant that's being retained. In terms of pricing, I don't have that information with me right now.
Okay, thank you very much.
Someone's trying to.
Sorry, I'm having some.
I might ask then, Mayor, if staff could comment on whether or not.
Can you hear me?
I wonder if staff
Okay.
could comment then on whether or not this should move to tier 3 or whether it should stay in tier 2 since it's underway.
I think, go ahead, Indy.
Up to you. I think it's something that's underway according to our CAO's definition. I think it can stay in tier 2.
Fair enough. I'll withdraw the amendment then, with the leave of the seconder.
So leaved.
Sorry, I've lost my. Yeah, I'm not hearing anything. That's
because no one was talking.
okay. Now I'm good now. It's come through. Sorry about that. I'd lost my headset. Well, the battery died. So your chair is totally lost. Where are we at here?
We can hear
Item
you fine.
withdrawn.
So you pulled that, Councillor McCurry?
Yes, the amendment's off the floor now. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. Just the work that gets done in my absence is terrific. So anything else to outcome number 3? No, seeing no raised hand, we'll move to outcome number 4 now, which is a high trust in the city through demonstrated progress and taxpayer affordability and value for money. Does anybody wish to move any amendments? Don't forget, raise your hand physically. Not seeing, oh, Councillor Vanderstelt.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would, seeking a seconder, like to, in light of the fact that our Tier 1 Tier 1A is an ongoing process. I think council has made consistent commitment to KPMG's report. The public is very well aware of that report. It's an ongoing work in progress. I think we've fully committed to it. I think I would like to replace A with the enhanced communication for residents. I find that it is so much more important nowadays, more so than at any other time in our history, at least my experienced history of council, to make sure that we have clear communication with our residents of exactly what it is we're doing, how they get their value for money out of council and senior management staff. I think those messages need to be loud and clear on the corporation's official website. And like I said, I am seeking a seconder to move. That would be Tier 2, D up to Tier 1A.
And you're deleting, you're deleting what's Tier A, or pardon me,
A? Deleting A as an ongoing process that we've already committed to, replacing it with D from Tier 2.
And Councillor Utley seconding that. Seeing no discussion, no raised hands. Oh, Councillor McCurry.
Thank you, Mayor. I wonder if the mover might consider separating those two actions, because I'd like to, I agree with him that I'd like to move the communications up, but I would still like to leave the KPMG in the top category.
I would consider that a friendly amendment, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, so you've taken out the deleting A, and what you've really done now is your motion is moving D, I guess, into C, and leaving, and that would be in Tier 1.
That is correct, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. We're good. Okay. No raised hands, Madam Clerk. Can you show us the amendment? We'll call the vote. Yeah. So item 4D be moved to Tier 1 placement. Yep, that's it.
Councillor Martin, we're just waiting on your vote. I believe he has stepped away.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Stepped away.
So the amendment has carried on a recorded vote of 7-0. Those voting in favor, Councillors Vanderstelt, Utley, Sless, McCurry, Antosky, Wall, Mayor Davis, noting Councillor Martin is not present at the time of the vote.
All right. Any other amendments to outcome number 4? Seeing no raised hands. We'll move to outcome number 5, which is growth is successfully accommodated in expansion lands. Does anybody have any amendments to outcome 5? Seeing no raised hands, I'll move to outcome number 6. I feel like I'm at an auction.
Sorry, Mayor Davis?
Did you want to do something to outcome number 5?
I did, yes.
Then
Sorry, I had my hand
you
up.
should raise your hand quicker. Okay. What do you want to do to outcome number 5?
Tier 2 priority D, forge strong relationships with the people of 6 nations of the Grand River to support projects that contribute to growth and prosperity. I think the County of Brant is absent from there, and we are surrounded by the County of Brant. So I was thinking perhaps an amendment that stated forge strong relationships with the people of the Six Nations of the Grand and the County of Brant to support projects that contribute to growth and prosperity.
Is there a seconder? Not seeing. Oh, Councillor McCurry. Did you want to speak? Yes. Did you want to speak any further to that, Councillor Well, before I?
Nope.
Okay, Councillor McCurry to the amendment.
Nope.
Okay. Call the vote on that.
The amendment has carried on a recorded vote of 6-2. Those voting in favor, Councillors Utley, McCreary, Martin, Antosky, Wall, Mayor Davis. Those opposed, Councillor Vanderstout, Councillor Sless.
Any other amendments to outcome number 5? Raise your hand. Seeing no raised hands, we'll go to outcome 6, which is the stronger, more diversified tax base and a range of employment opportunities. Councillor McCreary.
Thank you, Mayor. In the first bullet point, Tier 1 priorities, I would like to move an amendment. We would scratch the words present results and replace that with implement recommendations.
So that this would now read implement recommendations of the development review process?
That's correct.
Okay. Seconded by Councillor Vanderstout. Seeing no raised hands, I'll call the, oh, Councillor Antosky.
Sorry, it's finicky tonight. Sorry, I apologize. I'm going to ask this question, which is kind of an overarching question for all of them, but it fits to this one because I don't know where else to use my speaking term for this. But I'm curious from staff to know how many of our Tier 1 priorities are done. This will change now that the amendments changed because it's talking about implementing. But how many of our Tier 1s are complete already or imminently complete, are going to be complete by the end of the year?
Are you saying of all of the Tier 1s or just the Tier 1s and outcome 6?
Well, I am talking about the one in number 6, but I am asking that for all of the Tier 1s. I just was not sure where the appropriate time to bring that up was with one speaking period, but I didn't have anything else to speak on with this. So it's appropriate to bring it up here.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Antosky. We met a week ago Friday to go over the questions and answers for you to get the information back to you. We didn't because we didn't want to be presumptive of what what's in Tier 1, Tier 2, and Tier 3. We didn't actually create like a completed, not in progress or not in progress sheet. So I don't have that number. I wish I did, but when this was done, that was the first thing we're going to be doing, was sitting down and kind of seeing where we are and kind of prepare a report card and come back to you in November with that report card. But we don't have that information, Councillor Antosky. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay, because I just saw in one of the documents that we had, it had just the Tier 1s all laid out, and it seemed to me that a number of them are already complete or almost complete, but thank you.
Okay. Councillor Utley to the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I fully support this. Some of the recommendations are already being implemented. There's many more to go, but this is the time to implement, and I think it's very doable in the remainder of this term. Thank you.
Councillor Vanderstout.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I agree with this as well. It's one prime example of how our shifting priorities happen as we speak, as we run through this race. There's been a lot of hard work and diligent attention paid to. I think maybe this is the second or third iteration of this plan to make sure we eliminate the red tape and be open for business. However, no matter how many times we go through the process, we do need to implement them, and we need the funding source to do so. So from my perspective, now that we know what we need to do, we should make it a priority to actually do it. So I support this 100%. We need to be open for business for a number of different reasons, not just for infill in progress, but everything north power line as well. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Seeing no other raised hands, Madam Clerk, take the vote on that.
The amendment has carried on a recorded vote of 8-0. Those voting in favor, Councilors Vanderstel, Utley, Slash, McCreary, Martin, and Toski, Wall, Mayor Davis.
So anyone else seeking amendment to outcome number 6? Councillor Wall.
Yeah, I just would like to see B move to tier 1, only in the sense that, you know, we don't know what COVID-19's, how long it's going to be with us, but I mean, it's definitely a time sensitive thing. It's a do it now or there will be serious repercussions.
Is there a seconder? Councillor McCreary. Anybody wish to speak to this?
I'll speak to it, Mayor Davis.
Okay, go ahead.
I mean, Brantford's built by small businesses, and our retail and our tourism and, you know, the restaurants need a tremendous amount of support right now. And kind of as I alluded to, which I shouldn't have, but I did, to motivate it, and essentially, you know, we don't know what the outcomes of COVID-19 are going to be, but if we don't support them and support them now, they might not exist by the time we get around to it. So I think that having this as a tier 2 versus a tier 1, even though it might not seem like a big deal, this absolutely needs to be declared as a tier 1 priority, and for the businesses to know that we've got their back.
Yeah, for me, the dilemma is kind of Councillor Antoski's dilemma. I mean, the Mayor's Task Force, it's there. It's one of the priorities set out in there. It's already been adopted by Council. The Economic Development Department staff are working on it. So this is my dilemma that Councillor Antoski had with that other one. So I guess I'm not going to vote for it in favor of it because it's almost like done anyways. And there's already a commitment made to do it. So I guess I'm not even sure why it's in here, but.
I mean, then I'm willing to.
We don't argue back and forth, Councillor. Well, so
no, I can table it though. I can take it back.
You can table it. Certainly you can.
Yeah, I mean, with the clarification you provided, so.
Okay, it's tabled. Anyone else have an amendment to outcome number 6? Councillor Martin, that's not a, no, didn't think so. Okay, we'll go to outcome number 7.
Point of order. Councillor McCreary has one.
Councillor McCreary, did you want to do something to outcome number 6?
Mayor, I just wanted to clarify whether the amendment was tabled or withdrawn.
So withdrawn was what I was thinking. Yes, thank you.
It's withdrawn. Tabled for all intents and purposes, withdrawn because this is a council meeting. So, but anyways, it's withdrawn. Thank you for making that request so we could clarify that. I assume you didn't have anything else you wanted outcome number 6, Councillor McCreary?
No, thank you for your attention, Mayor.
Yes, okay. Outcome number 7. Councillor Antoski, then Councillor McCreary. Councillor Antoski is first.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a number of amendments I'd like to make to this one.
Is it a package or are you going to do it one by one?
Well, do it as a package, I guess, and then I will speak to it after. So I would like tier 1 to be items B, C, and D. I would like tier 2, sorry, yep.
Okay, so you want B, C, and D to be in tier 1.
Yes.
Yep.
Tier 2, E and F.
So
And
tier 2 would be E and F.
And tier 3A. And if I may, another amendment in the wording to.
Okay, what do we do with that? Do you want to do that
Okay.
one separately?
Okay, all right. Yeah, I do want to change the wording, but I just speaking to this and
So
coupled with.
I just want to make sure we got it straight. So
Yep.
So tier 1 will be B, C, and D.
Yep.
Tier 2 will be E and F.
Correct.
And tier 3 will be A.
Correct.
Is there a seconder for that? Councillor Vanderstel has seconded that. Okay, go ahead, Councillor Antosky.
Thank you, Mayor. B, C, and D, this is part of what we've been talking about already. B is, we're already doing that with our climate action plan. I think that the such as electric or hybrid may have thrown people off because those are really big items. That's part of the amendment later, just take that off. C, we are working on creating the community waste diversion through a few projects with staff. We've already been looking at that. We've made a commitment to that. And the assessment tool is almost done and should be ready for testing and trial in the new year. So I think it makes sense to move those all up. It's insane to me that we don't have any tier 1 priorities when, again, this outcome is something that we've made a commitment to and agreed to. So I think that's it if you don't want me to do the amendment to the wording yet on
We've got
B.
quite a package here, so.
Yeah.
Councillor McCreary.
Mayor, thank you. Can we do these one at a time? There might be an appetite to do some of them and not others. So it'd be a shame to see the councillor's amendment fail because it's a package.
Yeah, I think that might be a wise, even though it'd be more time consuming, I think you'll get a better result.
Thank you, Councillor. I'm fine with that.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor.
So right now we're dealing with, I'm going to say we're dealing with tier moving B to tier 1. And that's second by Councillor Vanderstel. So any discussion, read that. Councillor Utley and then Councillor Martin.
Mr. Mayor, I'm going to save my question to C when we get to C. Thank
Okay.
you.
Councillor Martin to B.
Yeah, no, I want to speak to C.
Okay. Anybody else want to speak to B? Councillor Celeste, did you want to speak to B?
I want to speak kind of to the whole thing, Mr. Mayor. Somebody watching this on YouTube is going to wonder what's a B, what's a D, and we're moving E to F. I think we should be attaching some description to it.
Yeah, I think we could probably share outcome. Can we share, Emma? Can we share outcome number 7? That's a good suggestion. Councillor Sluss. We're going to wait for a second here for outcome 7. Okay, there you got it. So we're dealing with B, which is demonstrate the city's commitment to environmental leadership through visible projects. Okay, so does anybody else want to speak to B? Not seeing any raised hands. So, Madam Clerk, if you can put the resolution up for us, which is moving B into tier 1. Yep, we're ready to vote. So,
Councillor Wall, we're just waiting for your response.
Sorry, it didn't register when I pushed the button.
The amendment has carried on a recorded vote of 8-0. Those voting in favor, Councillors Vanderstel, Utley, Sless, McCreary, Martin, Antosky, Wall, Mayor Davis.
So the next amendment Councillor Antosky is putting on the floor, well, our rule will be it's taking C, which is increase the community waste diversion through green bin, moving that from tier 2 to tier 1. Do we have a seconder for that? Second by Councillor Wall. In terms of discussion, start with Councillor Martin.
Thank you. This is something that we're not going to be able to do in this term of council just because we have the contract already set for our garbage collection. If anything, this should be going the other way. This should go into tier 3.
Okay. Councillor Sluss.
Sorry, I think my hand was up to get the clarification that we put verbiage to A's and B's.
Okay, Councillor Utley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As much as I would like to support this, I don't think it's doable in this term. I think we can work towards it, but I just don't see it being doable in this term at all. So thank you.
Not seeing any other raised hands. Madam Clerk, if you could get the wording up on the screen, share it, and then we'll vote on it. Yep.
The amendment has failed on a recorded vote of 3-5. Those voting in favor, Councillor Sless, Antosky, Wall. Those opposed, Councillors Vanderstel, Utley, McCreary, Martin, Mayor Davis.
All right, so we'll take, the next one will be D, moving from tier 2 to tier 1. That's complete the City of Brantford greenhouse gas assessment tool. Anybody wish to speak to that? And that's second by Councillor Vanderstel. That's Councillor McCreary speaking to the amendment.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Is this another one of the things that we've questioned that's actually underway and headed for completion?
I think we know it's underway. We haven't seen it yet.
Is there anything that
Well,
we could
perhaps,
do to?
I see India is here to help us on that.
Is India? Could you respond to that, please?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. My understanding is that this will be a report to council in November with implementation by November 2021, I believe.
Okay, thank you. So we're just about to the finish line. So I would think that this could just sit where it is, perhaps.
Okay. Councillor Vanderstel.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Sorry, it'll come to us in November, and we will have to decide whether or not we're going to go ahead with the implementation of the recommendations of an ongoing study. Is that what we will be doing and then implementing in the following year?
So for some clarification, through you, Mr. Mayor, my understanding, so this is again, Rochelle Rumney, it's her project, but my understanding is that with the approval, the year that we need from November 2020 to November 2021 is actually for staff training and understanding that tool and how it is implemented into our reporting.
And we will be making that decision this November, correct? In a month from now, yes?
If I can, through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Vanderstel, the short answer is yes. The draft is out this week. The staff are now reviewing it across the corporation, and that'll be coming through next month.
Okay, so this falls into the same category for me as the Building Process Review Committee. We've done a lot of the background studies and work on it. All we have to do is do the implementation and follow through. So that's why I support this. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, not seeing any other speakers. Madam Clerk, if you get the wording up for us, and then we'll take the vote. Yep, good go.
The amendment has carried on a recorded vote of 5-3. Those voting in favor, Councillors Vanderstel, Utley, Sless, and Toski, Wall. Those opposed, Councillors Martin, McCreary, Mayor Davis.
Okay, Councillor Antosky, before we go to E and F, you mentioned you wanted something, the wording of something changed. Now that I think about it, maybe we should deal with that now in case, like, is that in reference to E, F, or G?
It was to B, Mr. Mayor, and it was actually the way you read it. It's just to take off such as electric or hybrid fleet investments, just demonstrate the city's commitment to environmental leadership through visible projects.
It says we just ended the word visible projects.
Yes, because there's a lot of, there are many projects that are much smaller in scope than the two that are mentioned.
Okay. Well, why don't we deal with that now? Do you mind? Let's clean that up. So,
That's fine.
okay, is there a seconder on that? Second by Councillor McCreary. Any discussion on that? Seeing none. Madam Clerk, let's call the vote on that.
The amendment has carried on a recorded vote of 8-0. Those voting in favor, Councillors Vanderstel, Utley, Sless, McCreary, Martin, and Toski, Wall. Mayor Davis.
Okay. Next up, Councillor Antosky, I think you said you wanted E and F. Well, you tell me what you want to do with E and
Yes,
F.
yes, you're correct. E and F to go to tier 2.
Well, because we have E already in tier 2.
Sorry, to stay there. Yeah, F to move to 2, please.
Okay, so after your motion is F will move to 2 from 3. Is there a seconder for that? Not, oh, Councillor Utley. Councillor McCreary, did you wish to speak to this?
Mayor, no, my hand's up for the next speaking opportunity on an amendment.
Okay. Anyone else? Not seeing anybody else. So if we can put, Madam Clerk, if you get the wording up for us, please. Good.
The amendment has carried on a recorded vote of 6-2. Those voting in favor, Councillors Vanderstel, Utley, Sless, Martin, and Toski, Wall. Those opposed, Mayor Davis, Councillor McCreary.
Okay, so Councillor Toski, I think your last one was.
My last one was to move A to tier 3.
Right, the remediating brownfield lands. Okay, so that's seconded by Councillor Vanderstel. Anybody wish to speak to that? Not seeing any raised hands. Madam Clerk, if you can put the wording up for us. Good, okay. Take the vote on it, please.
The amendment has carried on a recorded vote of 5-3. Those voting in favor, Councillors Vanderstel, Utley, and Toski, Wall. Mayor Davis. Those opposed, Councillor Sless, McCreary, Martin.
Okay. So Councillor McCreary, you've told us you'd like to make another amendment to 7.
Mayor, yes, thank you very much. And it concerns the item which was just demoted. I think it's I think we fail to recognize the status of the brownfield lands that we're at. So Mayor, what I would like to do firstly is change the wording of that item. It currently reads remediate brownfield lands and consider options for redevelopment. The two significant brownfield lands are remediated and I believe have site condition certificates. I would like to scratch the wording of that in its entirety and change it to read as follows, Mayor. Redevelop brownfield lands in conjunction with private sector and nonprofit organizations. So I'll read it again.
Yep, so you're deleting A in its entirety.
Deleting it in its entirety and replacing it with redevelop brownfield lands in conjunction with private sector and nonprofit organizations.
Okay, is there a seconder for that? Second by Councillor Antosky. Anybody wish to speak to this?
Mayor, I'll speak to it very briefly. It's an initiative that we can move forward, I think, within this term of council, and perhaps we could see construction on that site in the next term of council, but without any immediate action, it'll just continue to be all talk. I don't think it requires an awful lot of energy to move forward some of the things we're already working on.
Okay. Councillor Sluss?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think a major component, I agree with the moving forward with doing something with these properties, but part of that process has to be community engagement as far as the neighboring community to each. Well, the one I'm concerned with is the Sydenham Pearl brownfield, that there certainly has to be engagement with the community prior to any development moving forward. So I guess to condense that down, that maybe a key component of development is community consultation. That would be my amendment, seeking a seconder.
That's friendly to the mover.
Okay. So Councillor Otley, do you want to speak to it?
Certainly. I was going to second it, but yeah, I think the Sydenham Pearl site is ready to go. And with, as Councillor Slessor said, with community input. So I support.
Okay.
Thank you.
Councillor Wall?
Yeah, I was just seeking clarification on Councillor McCreary made a statement. The brownfield lands mentioned, like, I don't know if I'm even allowed to ask a question, but the brownfield lands here, I read it as how Councillor McCreary stated, we're not talking about Sydenham and Mohawk Greenwich, are we? Or are we talking about other brownfields?
No, I think there's basically two. That being one of them.
All right.
Is there anything else you want to say to that, Councillor Wall?
No, sorry. Thank you.
Okay. Not seeing other raised hands? Madam Clerk, you've got it up. Okay. Call the vote, please.
The amendment has carried on a recorded vote of 8-0. Those voting in favor, Councillors Vanderstel, Utley, Sless, McCreary, Martin, Antosky, Wall, Mayor Davis.
So anybody else have any amendments for outcome number 7? Councillor McCreary.
Mayor, further to the wording change with respect to the brownfield item, I think now it's probably supportable to bump that up in the queue. And I would suggest that it go back where it started from into tier 2.
Okay. Yeah, I think I'll rule that's in order because it really is substantially different. Councillor Vanderstel, you're seconding that? Yes, you are. Any discussion on that? Madam Clerk, if you can the wording up, please, and then we'll take the vote. Vanderstel.
Yes.
We're just confirming that you had seconded it.
Oh, thank you.
Well played.
Okay, so we'll call the vote on that.
The amendment has carried on a recorded vote of 8-0. Those voting in favor, Councilors Vanderstel, Utley, Sless, McCurry, Martin, and Toski, Wall, Mayor Davis.
Any other amendments to outcome 7? Seeing no raised hands, we'll move to outcome number 8. Outcome number 8, if we can share that, please, Emma. Yep, it's up there now. So does anybody want to make any amendments to desired outcome number 8? Councilor McCurry?
Mayor, thank you very much. With respect to item E, increasing funding allocations for ongoing maintenance of municipal parks and amenities along the Grand River, I've never really understood this item, what the significance of it is. I think I'd like to move to just scratch this. Somebody obviously must have put this forward, and if there's an explanation for it that's that clarifies it, I'd be happy to hear that. But currently, I think the maintenance that we have of our municipal parks is top notch, and I'm not sure what would be gained by spending more money.
Yep. So that's, you're moving, we delete E.
Yes.
Seconder for that. Seconded by Councillor Martin. Any discussion? Seeing no raised hands. Madam Clerk, if you could share the wording, please, and then take the vote. Yes. Proceed with the vote.
The amendment has carried on a recorded vote of 8-0. Those voting in favor, Councilors Vanderstel, Utley, Sless, McCurry, Martin, and Toski, Wall, Mayor Davis.
Okay. Any other proposed amendments to outcome 8? Councillor Vanderstel.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's again surprising that there are no tier 1 priorities in this desired outcome number 8. One of the things that strikes me as being necessary as a preventative measure, we cried long and hard about what happened to our city during the flood, and we still have not yet recovered from all of the damages as a result of that flood. I hope that we can, in the same vein of reasoning, after we've determined what we need to do, that we need to work with our community agencies to work towards the flood mitigation and remediation. So I am moving that we move A from its current position at tier 2A to tier 1A.
Okay, do we have a seconder to that? Councillor Antosky seconding that. Yeah, I'll speak to that. If you hadn't done it, I would have done it. And I agree with you that, it's easy to, we're 2 years past that flood, as it almost coming up to 3 years. And it's how quickly you can forget how intense it was for this community, and especially those residing in the low-lying areas. And we do know that the GRCA is doing a study. They now have a consultant hired looking at different remedial measures that would reduce the propensity of ice to jam up south of the city. But there are some other investments we should be making, in particular the stormwater valve system. I know we replaced 3 of, I believe, 26, and those valves are just as critical as filling in the 2 gaps in the dike, because it's that stormwater system that could allow high water in the river to enter into the city. And also having the new modern valves allows, even when you're doing that, would allow water to escape from the city into the river, those one-way valves. So that's an extremely good investment. And just think what would happen if we had a flood in a year or 2 and we had failed to make this tier 1. So I fully support it. Anybody else want to speak to that? Seeing nobody. Madam Clerk, call the vote on that.
The amendment has carried on a recorded vote of 8-0. Those voting in favor, Councillors Vanderstel, Utley, Sless, McCurry, Martin, and Toski, Wall, Mayor Davis.
Anyone else? Amendment to outcome number 8. Councillor McCreary.
Thank you, Mayor. Item C, revitalize existing parks and create new parks and amenities along the Grand River. I think I'd like to amend that to state remedy deficiencies in parks infrastructure along the Grand River. We have one new facility which will get underway. I believe that's the boat launch at Daubeny Creek. I don't know that we have any other plans underway for parks that touch on the river. So I think we'd be well served simply to revitalize and repair existing parks, facilities, and infrastructure.
Okay, I've got a mixed messaging from you there. So
yeah, so let me just try and recover the wording. It would be revitalize and repair existing parks, infrastructure along the Grand River.
So you're sort of deleting create new parks and amenities.
Correct. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Because we do have one that's in the works and we have no other plans, nor do we have any locations or money.
Okay. Is there a seconder for this? Not seeing any seconders. So the amendment will not proceed. Any other amendments proposed for outcome number 8? Seeing no raised hands, we'll go to outcome number 9. Emma, if you could share that for us. This is the Heritage Arts and Culture. So do we have any amendments to this outcome 9? Councillor Wall. What's your amendment? You're still muted. So
I'm sorry, can you hear me?
yes, we can hear you now.
I'd like to see Tier 2 Priority A move to Tier 1 Priority A.
So you want to move A, which is update
Thank you.
Update the municipal cultural plan and move that into Tier 1. Okay.
Yes.
Second?
Yes.
Yep. Is there a seconder for that? Councillor McCurry is seconding that.
I just.
So it's speaking, go ahead, Councillor Wall, then we'll have Councillor Utley.
With the lack of a Tier 1 priority for number 9, I think that updating the municipal cultural plan is a top priority and may as well be.
Okay. Councillor Utley to the amendment.
Yes, I support the update. I just wanted to add, I'm going to add an amendment to B and C as well, because they're all very doable in this this term.
Okay. Yeah, we'll take yours in a minute, but we've got a Councillor Sluss to that amendment.
No, actually, no, mine's an amendment as well, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
Sorry.
So not seeing any other speakers then for the amendment to move A into Tier 1. Madam Clerk.
The amendment has carried on a recorded vote of 7-1. Those voting in favor, Councillors Vanderstel, Utley, Sless, McCreary, Antosky, Wall, Mayor Davis. Those opposed, Councillor Martin.
All right, so I think I have two councillors who've indicated a desire to make further amendments, and that would be Councillor Utley and Councillor Sluss. So Councillor Utley, you're first.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. When you read B and C, complete updates to the museum sustainability plan and continue to explore are both very doable in this term. And I like to amend to move B and C up to tier 1.
Okay. Is there a seconder for that?
Seconder.
Councillor McCreary seconding that. Actually, there are quite a few willing to second that. That's a good sign, Councillor Utley. Anybody else want to speak to this? Councillor Sluss?
No, I'm still waiting for an amendment, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, well, that's the raised hand, okay? The physically raised hand.
Got it.
Got it, okay. Seeing no speakers to that, Madam Clerk? Yep, it's good.
The amendment has carried on a recorded vote of 8-0. Those voting in favor, Councillors Vanderstel, Utley, Sless, McCreary, Martin, and Tosky, Wall, Mayor Davis.
All right, Councillor Sluss, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to, first get clarification. Establish a cultural hub. Is that referring to a mid-size performance center?
Aaron or Mr. Hutchings? Yeah.
I don't know. I might look to Erin, who summarized this, if she might know more than me on this one, the definition of this. Erin, would you know, or
Hi, through you, Mayor Davis. I would suggest deferring to Councillor Antosky on this. This was an amendment requested by Councillor Antosky on the September 19th session.
Can you help us, Councillor Antosky?
Thank you. Yes, there has been confusion. So there are two very separate things. We've got the cultural hub that used to be the mid-size performance theater. And then, so the cultural hub is the buildings and the activity that happens within it. And the mid-size performance theater is part of the entire cultural hub. So it's not, the theater is not its own item anymore.
Yeah. But this would be, someone would think this is that, but you're right, it's evolved to not just a mid-size theater, but that and more.
Correct. It's a cultural hub, including visual arts, anything that music, yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so
I guess having heard that then, Mr. Mayor, I won't move an amendment, but I didn't want the mid-size theater project to get derailed or not included in here. But if it is, because I think there's a stomach to do that with through private sector. So I would hope that that it doesn't get buried in this cultural hub thing, but that it is standalone enough that people understand that it's moving forward and that we're still working on it.
Yeah, and just for clarification, I think Councillor Tosky, your task force, you're the head of it. I believe probably will be meeting fairly soon to move that along.
Yes, we're waiting on approval from clerks to get that meeting going.
Yeah, okay. All right, so any other amendments to outcome number 9? Councillor Martin, then Councillor Vanderstel.
Yeah, actually, it's not an amendment. I have a 8 o'clock commitment for a Zoom birthday party for my son, so I'll be cutting out now. Thank you.
Did you want your 5-minute speaking opportunity before cutting out? Councillor Vanderstel.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Before I move the amendment, I would like to get a little bit more clarification on Tier 3E, expand the cenotaph. What is entailed in expanding the cenotaph?
Again, Mr. Mayor, this these were suggestions by council. They were not vetted through staff. They're with the consult with Aaron. Maybe Aaron might know, and I'm not sure if you're aware of this one, but these were sent in by council and during the discussions with Aaron and other documents. So Aaron, do you have anything you can update on that one?
Yes, through you, Mayor Davis. I believe this was a item that came up through individual telephone interviews. I believe it was the interview with Councillor Utley.
You know, I would read it to see that it says exactly what it is. So it's the current cenotaph. It would be to expand it.
Mr. Mayor, Councillor McCurry and I could expand on this if that's agreeable.
Yeah, if you could give us a short synopsis of that.
Yeah. We've been working on this project for a year or so, and found the surrounding around the cenotaph is not really appropriate for the number of people that we get there. People are standing on flower beds, and so we've yet to design something, but our vision is to have a maybe tiered steps completely surrounding the front of the cenotaph itself, so people can get more people there in comfort and can see the proceedings that are going on. That's basically the.
Yep, that's good. I think
there's
that's a good
another
explanation.
part to it, but
yep.
I will, through you, Mr. Mayor, ask if Councillor McCurry can add any more than I have.
With your leave, Mayor, yes, I can. This arose as an adjunct to the project that Councillor Utley and I led with respect to the howitzer renovation. And we came to council again with some thoughts about some improvements to the cenotaph. And in addition to what Councillor Utley said in terms of making the site more usable for folks that turn up there on November the 11th, we're also exploring the completion of the design Walter Allward had in mind, which was not completely funded in the 30s when built. And it would add a number of other features to the cenotaph as it exists now. In addition to that, there are a number of names that are absent, which the Great War Centenary folks have provided us with. So that's kind of a synopsis of the remaining work that's outstanding there. And Councillor Utley and I are hoping that we can move this forward shortly. It's unlikely that we'll get any of this done as we had hoped to by November the 11th, 2020, but hopefully we'll have some of this completed before the next year is out. Sure. And I would say that we probably want to do better with respect to the wording of item E, which we're discussing. I'll have an amendment for that, Mayor, when I believe it was Councillor Vanderstelt that had the floor. If he can.
Yes. Yes. So we got that explanation. Councillor Vanderstelt, is there an amendment you want to make?
My amendment is to clarify the wording, Mr. Mayor. I would appreciate that. Okay. Whatever way, shape, or form that works for you. Thank you.
Okay, I think we have Councillor, if you will yield the floor to Councillor McCurry, I think he's told us he has in mind an amendment to clarify the wording of the. Is that correct, Councillor McCurry?
It is, yes. And I might suggest, and perhaps Councillor Utley could think about this too, I would think proceed with improvements to the Brant County War Memorial.
All right, that's pretty clear. So your amendment then is that the wording of E be amended as you've just described it.
Yes, proceed with amendments to the Brant County War Memorial.
Okay. And that's seconded by Councillor Utley with the V for victory. Seconding. Discussion? Any discussion on that? They're all raised hands. Madam Clerk. Looks good.
Councillor Antosky, we're just waiting for your response.
I'm in favor.
The amendment has carried on a recorded vote of 7-0. Those voting in favor, Councilors Vanderstel, Utley, McCreary, Antosky, Wall, Mayor Davis.
Any other amendments that'll come tonight? Councillor Antosky.
Thank you, Mayor. Since we've moved a number of items to tier 1 that look to be, quick accomplishments, I'd like to look at moving item D, establishing the cultural hub in collaboration with arts organizations, up to tier 2, please.
A seconder for that. Councillor Wall.
A point of order, Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
Has this item already been amended but read wrong?
No, I don't think it was amended. I don't recall it being amended. There was some clarification about it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So the amendment then is move D up into tier 2.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, and just to add on to what Councillor Celeste said, there is some private interest. There is certainly an interest within the community, and there's been some movement. So I think that we need to keep the gas on for this one.
Okay. Any other discussion, Councillor Utley?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Where it says establish a cultural hub, does that mean design it, build it? I can understand and accept a plan or an action plan, a proposal, but can we establish a cultural hub in the next 2 years? I'm just asking that out loud. I'm not sure if it's doable. I'll vote for it, but if it isn't, I think it's appropriate
I think
that
we have
I could at least move it up to.
Mr. Hutchings has come in. Mr. Hutchings, can you help
I think
us?
that's a very valid point, Councillor. Some of the ideas that are there that would not be developed over the next 2 years, but we would have a plan in place and maybe an implementation plan in place over the next 2 years to do that. I think you're correct in the word established. It wouldn't be completed, but we would definitely have an implementation plan in place.
Thank you, Mr. Hutchings. I think it's important, but I just, in all honesty, I can't see it being done in this term. I can't support it as a result. I can see it going to tier 2, but not maybe not tier 1.
I think that was the resolution to move it D from 3 to 2.
And again, if it's in tier 2, is it doable in this term?
Yeah. Anyways, it's going to tier 2, not tier 1. That's a
yeah.
Okay. So,
Yeah.
Councillor McCreary,
Thank you.
did you want to speak to this, or do you want to do another amendment?
I do, Mayor. I'd like to amend what's on the floor currently of the amendment. And I think there seems to be some concern about the word establish. Perhaps we could do what we did with the cenotaph and simply say advance the cultural hub. That might make it palatable to everybody.
Okay. So you're putting that on the floor as an amendment to the amendment, second by Councillor Vanderstel. Any discussion regarding this amendment to the amendment? Seeing none. Just waiting for the clerk to give us the wording here.
Mr. Mayor, while we're waiting, may I ask for a point for some clarification on something?
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. Just because it's come up a few times, is our filter to be only things that can be completed in the rest of our term? I mean, I understood that that's something to look at, but it's certainly from a priority setting perspective, I'm a bit confused on that.
Well, my understanding is tier 1, right? That would be we want to shoot to get it done within the next 2 years. My understanding of what was described to us in the conversations I've had with Aaron and Brian is that tier 2 is we want to strive for that. May not be possible, but if it can be done, we'd like to do it. And tier 3 is kind of need to work on these. Maybe it can be done in 2 years, but even if it can't, then we'd be setting the groundwork, hopefully for the next council to take it over.
Okay, so thank you.
Okay, there we got it. So call the vote then on the amendment, which is replacing the word establish with the word advance.
The amendment to the amendment has carried on a recorded vote of 7-0. Those voting in favor, Councillors Vanderstel, Utley, Sless, McCreary, Antosky, Wall, Mayor Davis.
All right, Madam Clerk, can you put the amendment up then as amended? All right, not seeing anyone else want to speak to this. We'll call the vote on that then.
The amendment as amended has carried on a recorded vote of 7-0. Those in favor, Councillors Vanderstel, Utley, Sless, McCreary, Antosky, Wall, Mayor Davis.
All right. Any other amendments to outcome 9? Councillor Wall.
Thank you, Mayor Davis. I'd like to add an F, and then the F that I'd like to add would borrow from item 8D, which would be promote complementary private sector enterprises and increase tourism marketing.
Okay, I don't understand what you're suggesting.
So, do you want me to elaborate? Am I allowed to?
Well, so what's your amendment? So
Exactly what I said. I want to add F, and I want to copy paste the text from 8D.
So you want it to appear twice then?
Nope. So D is specific to promoting tourism marketing regarding the potential of the Grand River. And if I were to add it to this one, it would be promoting the arts, culture, and heritage assets of the city. That's how I read it.
Okay. So the same wording, except it would be promoting
private sector, complementary private sector enterprises related to arts, history, and culture, and increasing tourism marketing for arts, history, and culture, and sustainable spaces. Yeah. Does that make sense?
I think so. And your resolution would be to add that as F.
Yes.
So do we have an appetite for that? Is there a seconder? Councillor McCreary. Just give the clerk a minute to.
And I'll speak to it if that's okay.
Yep, go ahead.
Yeah, so I mean, I think I just want to elaborate a little bit further. I mean, I, along with other members of council, are very large advocates of the historical history of our area and the arts and culture community. And there are so many third party and private enterprise sectors bringing amazing events related to those things here. And then essentially just how I had read it originally in item 8 was that increase in tourism funding, and it was specifically to the Grand River, which is why I just wanted to copy paste it and have it as F here, because we do a lot right now to promote history, arts, and culture. I just think that if they had more resources, they could do more, especially with partners like the Heart of Ontario and various other organizations out there. Brantford is a destination city, and we need to tell the world about it. more than we already do.
Okay.
Thank you.
So Councilor McCreary has seconded that. Seeing no other raised hands, Madam Clerk, if you can just. Is that what you had in mind, Councillor Well?
Yes. Yes.
Yep. Okay. All right. So I'll call a vote on that. And so that would be a tier 3 then, right? That would have it as tier 3.
Yep.
Yep. Okay.
The amendment to add clause F has carried on a recorded vote of 7-0. Those voting in favor, Councillors Vanderstel, Utley, Sless, McCreary, Antosky, Wall, Mayor Davis.
Okay. Any other amendments to outcome 9? Not seeing any. So I think that is all the amendments. So now we have a resolution that's been exhaustively amended. 30 amendments. That's got to be a record. All right. So 5-minute speaking opportunities, if you so wish, to the resolution as it's been amended 30 times. And Councillor Wall.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks. That's what I want to say. I want to just express how sincerely thankful that I am for this exercise that we have all just taken as members of council. I think it's one thing to, do constituent work and to do all the regular day-to-day business of council, but it's a completely different thing to kind of just sit down, put it in writing what we want to prioritize as leaders of our community. So I'm thankful to be here, and I'm thankful to everybody for their time commitment tonight. I also want to just a huge thank you to our staff. They're the ones who are going to make this happen, and they're the ones who are making this happen currently. And we couldn't do anything without our incredible staff. And that's everybody. Too many people to name, but you're all amazing. And then I want to thank Erin and her team for putting up with us. We're a bit much, but thank you so much for coming to help make the city of Brantford a better place. That's it. I just want to say how thankful I am, and I'm pumped. Let's get started.
Yep. Councillor McCreary.
Mayor, thank you. Our goal was to achieve a 70% satisfaction rating, and for me, I think we've done remarkably better than that. I can't say there's anything on this list that I disagree with, and I can't say that there's much in terms of the tiering that I could take issue with. I'm happy with this outcome. This provides the CAO with the tool that one more tool that he needs in terms of advancing the desires of this council, which of course is the corporation of the city of Brantford, and the work that we do extends beyond our term, and it includes more, as Councillor Wall said, than simply looking after constituents and day-to-day business. We're advancing the business of the corporation and looking to the future for the corporation. As Councillor Vanderstel said earlier, it's something that needs a refreshing every now and again. Some may say that with politicians, that they should be changed like diapers often when necessary. But this is a go forward document for us, and I'm sure we're going to enjoy the fruits of this many years to come. And again, like I was said earlier, thank you to the consultant and for the staff that put this together for us.
Okay. Councillor Utley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First, I'd like to thank Erin Ohoski. I really liked the process that she used for us. It was very simple, but was very effective. And I find that the best tools in business careers are those tools that are simple, effective, and easy to use. And in my long career, I got to say that it's one of the best facilitated priority sessions I've ever been involved in. So thank you, Aaron. Also like to thank CAO Hutchings for finding Erin and selecting her over others that applied, and all the staff that were involved in this session. And lastly, to my fellow councillors and mayor, this was an excellent, very productive, friendly, free stand. It was the free discussion that went on, open discussion. So thank you. Great. Feel really good about this. Thanks, everyone.
Councillor Sluss.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I would echo everybody so far's comments that I've enjoyed the process, and I think it's been a fruitful one. It's a very ambitious set of priorities that we've set. We'll see how true we are to these once we hit budget. We spent a lot of money going through this process. We'll see if we back it up with the check that can be cashed, because there's a lot of good things in here, and there's nothing in here that we shouldn't be doing. But I think we'll have a second go at priority setting when we get into the estimates committee, because I think that's really where the rubber is going to hit the road, and we'll find out exactly, I think, during that process, the things that would be nice to do and the things that we can do. And I think that will come up as we go through that process. Hopefully we can proceed with everything that we've said that is very, very important, because they're all very good things to aspire to. But I would just caution that everything that we did, I think without exception, has a number beside it. And once we start adding up all those numbers, it's probably going to be a very large number. So I think we've got a plan, and you can't work without a plan, and we now have that plan. And I think as we go through the process of funding, I think then things will start to rise further to the top, and other things might slip down a little bit. But I think without having this plan and gone through this exercise, we were really we were shooting ourselves in the foot every year, because we really didn't have a set of principles to work from, and we do now. And I think that's important. So I'm looking forward to the estimates committee, and just hopefully we can make all of these things that we've aspired to come true. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Councillor Vanderstel.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I couldn't impress upon members more strongly. This is why I love the municipal process, because you're allowed a number of kicks at the can from a number of different perspectives on a number of different days. Being fully mindful of the fact that only 72% of council showed up tonight in order to carry this through for whatever reason. We know we want to find a 70% comfort level, but our work is not yet done. This is why I love the municipal process and municipal law. When this comes back to us, we have 3 more members of council who will contribute their perspective on the decisions and the discussion that we had made tonight. And for varying degrees of certainty, I think it's good to go through that process on a regular and repeated basis. I think back to the breakout sessions that we went through. I mean, all the raw data is available for people to read. Our breakout session, there was a statistical anomaly there of 54% all green. We were the green team. We had no reds whatsoever. The other 2 teams came in at 35%. This is the pure fluid motion that we should go through on a regular and repeated basis in order to make sure that we are taking the voices of our constituents forward, and we bring that forward to these sessions. This is a work of art. This is a work of brilliance, and you'll never know when this work of art is finished. For these reasons, I thank members for attaching, I think, to the resolution a recommendation that we go through this process in another year again. I think it serves to better serve the public and show that we are listening. So thank you so much to Aaron. Thank you so much to Brian. Thank you to the members. And our work isn't yet complete, but I look forward to the outcome. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Oh, Councillor Martin, you've reappeared.
I'm back.
You're back. Not seeing other speakers. There's really not much more I can add to the excellent comments been made so far. And just other than, a real thanks to our consultant, Aaron, Brian, and the other senior staff that were involved. There was a lot of work that went into this, especially by our consultant. And I agree with Councillor Utley. It was an interesting process. I like the fact that Aaron spent the time with us individually, obtaining from us what the priorities were for each of us. And I think that saved us a lot of time in terms of trying to distill what it is that's important for each of us when we look to our visions, the visions we each have to make our city better. And that's really what this amounts to, right? There were some elements of this, there were competing visions, but hey, that's the beauty of the democratic process, that we worked through it. And I thank the members of council who went through this, as we do through most of our deliberations, very respectful of others' viewpoints and perspectives. And I think we've come up with a document that will be a very valuable tool for staff. And I'm all for, doing this regularly. So with that, don't see any other speakers. Madam Clerk.
Oh. Item 6.1 as amended has carried on a recorded vote of 8-0. Those voting in favor, Councillors Vanderstel, Utley, Sless, McCreary, Martin, and Toski, Wall, Mayor Davis.
All right, moving on then. There are no notices of motion on tonight's agenda. So we need to bylaw, since this is a special council meeting. And Councillor Martin, I understand you have the motion for first and second reading of the bylaw to confirm tonight's proceedings.
I do. I move, seconded by Councillor McCurry, that leave be given to the mover and seconder to introduce the following bylaws for first and second reading. Bylaw 169-2020, bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the Council of the Corporation of the City of Brantford with respect to the special meeting held on October 15th, 2020.
All right. Any discussion? Seeing none. If I could call the vote, please, Madam Clerk.
The first and second reading of the bylaws has carried on a recorded vote of 8-0. Those voting in favor, Councillors Vanderstel, Utley, Sless, McCreary, Martin, and Toski, Wall, Mayor Davis.
Okay, Councillor Sless, can you read the resolution for the third and final reading?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, it's, I just lost. Yes, it's moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Utley, that bylaw 169-2020 be taken as read a third time, be finally passed and signed by the mayor and clerk.
Any discussion, third reading? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, take the vote.
The third reading on the bylaws has carried on a recorded vote of 8-0. Those voting in favor, Councillors Vanderstel, Utley, Sless, McCreary, Martin, and Toski, Wall, Mayor Davis.
Well, we accomplished a lot this evening, and so meeting's adjourned.